Hey, what's going on, guys? So my name is Ipe. I make 7 figures on the internet, ranking websites in Google and renting them out to local business owners. So what we call our business model digital real estate. And so today I'm gonna be reviewing this business model that's becoming more popular today, which is called AirBnB Arbitrage. Similar, but to what we're trying to do, but we're doing it in a digital world. This is obviously the physical.
We're talking today about the 5 steps to...
Second here, let me put my headphones on. So I'm going to give my feedback on what I think about this model and how it differs from digital real estate.
Your first arbitrage deal on Airbnb. I know you're going to get great value from this video. We're talking today about the 5 steps to get your first arbitrage deal on Airbnb. I know you're going to get great value from this video, and you're going to want to keep on getting great value from this channel. So subscribe and hit that notification bell. Hey guys, today we're talking about the 5 steps to get your first Airbnb arbitrage. This is a question I get all the time, and it's such a hot topic in Airbnb. Everyone wants to try their luck at Airbnb arbitrage, but they don't even know where to get started. We're going to do a very 5,000 foot overview today of what that looks like, but if you're ready to take that first step, you're definitely going to want to download my free course. We'll talk about that more at the end. So before we get into these 5 steps, we need to make sure that you actually know what Airbnb arbitrage is. This is something that was made popular right around 2013, 2014, and it was simply a person saying, hey, I don't have enough money to go buy a house, so let's solve this problem by renting one instead. So instead of buying a house, listing it on Airbnb, and putting upwards of maybe 6 figures into owning that house, you simply go to a landlord and tell them, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, I'd like to rent your property and then sublease it on Airbnb, not in those terms, by the way, and you keep all the profits. You have about 80% less startup costs because you're not buying the house, you're just furnishing it and maybe paying for the security deposit and first month's rent. And then whatever your expenses are and whatever your profits are, you're keeping the difference. So if you rent it from the landlord for $1,000 and then you rent it out on Airbnb at a nightly rate of $100 per night, you're fully booked. That's $3,000 for the month. You made $3,000, you spent $1,000, called another $500 on utilities, you just netted $1,500 on a property that you don't even own. When I found this out about Airbnb arbitrage, I went all in, I got a course, I got going, and I had my first one in under 4 weeks. Now today, 2.5 years in, we're at 50 properties, 45 of which we don't even own. With all that being said, let's go ahead and show you these top 5 ways. The first thing you want to do, it's pretty boring, but it's so necessary, start an LLC. Now with that LLC, there's a couple reasons why I think you should start it, and number one,
you know, I'm a fan of any model that allows people to create leveraged income, right? Which means other ways to produce income other than trading your time for dollars. So obviously, you know, different business model has different levels of risk that you have to undertake. But, you know, obviously with the Airbnb arbitrage, you are on the hook for the monthly rent, whether, you know, if you rent the place out for $3,000 a month, and you got to pay that to the landlord every month, right? And then you have to try to make a profit by renting it out. Yeah, I mean, I can see this model working if you pick the right locations and whatnot. Right away, the difference with what we do with digital real estate is that, you know, our sites, the hosting and the domain only costs $30, $15 to $30 a month in the hosting cost and domain. So way less risk, and our sites make anywhere from $500 to $2,000 to $3,000 a month in pretty much all net profit. So significantly less risks, digital real estate, significantly less risks, significantly less ongoing work in terms of dealing with, you know, Airbnb and dealing with like people moving into, I don't know, I don't think you call them tenants, right? Airbnb customers. Yeah, significantly less risk and probably around the same profit margins. Now, obviously, our business model has other difficulties as well. Like you do have to, you know, work with small business owners. I personally enjoy working with small business owners, but yeah, let's just keep watching the video.
Is it's just a mindset. It takes you from, I'm going to try this, to, hey, I'm really doing this thing. As soon as you register your LLC with the state, you're definitely at that point where you're like, okay, I'm doing this. This is a business. Let's get this started. The easiest way to do this is just go to your Secretary of State website and start a new business. Now, part of having a new business too is having good marketing materials and a good website. We talk about that just a little bit more in my free course. Make sure to stay tuned at the end when
I also imagine there's pretty steep upfront investment involved in having to furnish your Airbnb space. Like you have to have like pretty good furnishing, right? Because you need good pictures for people to want to book at your property. So that's going to be some pretty good upfront capital, I assume.
I talk about that. The second step is picking your
Whereas with digital real estate, we only have to invest about $500 to $1,000 into the website. And once we invest that, and just in terms of like backlinks and content to get that site to rank at the top of the Google search engine. So that's fraction of an investment of furnishing a house. And once we rent it out, once it's ranked, it's only like $30 a month to maintain the site. Way less upfront investment.
Market. Now you might have the luxury of living in a great place to do Airbnb. It might be right in your backyard. You might even have properties that you can go to that are on the same street as you, and that's a great way to get started in Airbnb arbitrage. But if you don't have that luxury and you need to find a new city, or heck, even if you need to figure out is your city the right place for an Airbnb, you need to start doing the research. The easiest way to do that is with AirDNA. The easiest way I can explain AirDNA is it's like the multiple listing service of Airbnb. So just like on the MLS, when you go to look for a house to buy, on AirDNA, you can go on there and look for a house to see if it would make money on Airbnb. Click on the link in the description below. You can get your free account set up with AirDNA right now. One recommendation I have for you with AirDNA is make sure you're going off of data and not the way that you feel, because when you go off of the data, you know exactly what is possible. When you go off the way that you feel, like, hey, I think this will be a good neighborhood. This feels like it would make a lot of money because it's by the water. When you go off of that, the data isn't there, and sometimes you can find yourself upside down on a deal.
Another, we do something similar as well. We teach students how to find the right markets to build your lead gen property. We teach students to build at least 10 different lead gen sites right out of the gate. So even if some of them don't hit or don't produce the amount of leads as you had hoped, you still have 10 more or 10 lead gen sites and it's very difficult to fail all 10. And because each 10 of those sites isn't that much upfront investment, you can even fail half of the 10 and still succeed and still win with digital real estate. The problem with Airbnb arbitrage is that if you make one mistake and sign that lease for a year, you're on the hook for a year and paying for that mortgage. So it's a lot less forgiving when you make a mistake with Airbnb arbitrage, which is a bit scary,
Now that you know where your market is, you have your business set, it's time to actually find the deals. Now at this point, you've hopefully done enough research on AirDNA to figure out, hey, I know that I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in this neighborhood. It's got to have the pool, or it's got to have X, Y, and Z amenity. In other words, you've kind of set your avatar property at this point. So what you're going to do is you're going to go find that property online. Some sites that are really easy to find properties: HotPads, Zillow, Facebook Marketplace. If you're really desperate, Craigslist, but I would say stay off of that. These are all versions of cold marketing. Now the eventual goal is to get you to have warm marketing leads where your phone is ringing. Step number 4 is set the appointment. And guys, it's as simple as this. You dial the phone number, you get the landlord on the phone, and you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, property at 1234 Main Street. I'd love to come see it. When can I go see it? Boom, set the appointment. That's literally all you have to do. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't pitch it over the phone. Get the appointment set in person. And step number 5, the final step here, is just go ahead and execute the appointment. A lot easier said than done. This is an art. This is something that you really have to master, and you have to know how to solve the problem for the landlord. Now, this is definitely an art. This is something that you need to figure out beforehand. You got to practice with yourself. You got to practice with landlords, and you just have to do it again and again and again until you get really good at it. And of course, if you want to get really good at that, all you have to do is download my free course. It's called How to Get Your First Airbnb Arbitrage. It's right there at my website, fearlesskyle.com, or you can click on the link down below. This has been the 5 ways to get your first.
I assume there's some negotiation involved with the landlord. I assume that a lot of the landlords wouldn't like their property, their house being used as Airbnb properties. So I believe that's what he's saying when he's talking about this is an art. You have to get good at it. It's almost like a negotiation, like a sales negotiation. And I'm sure there are landlords out there that would be down for it. Maybe they might ask for a little bit more on the rent, more on the maybe you do some sort of a profit share. Like, hey, if we are profitable, on a given month, then you can take a percentage of a profit share. Something like that could most likely entice a landlord to agree to do an Airbnb with their property. If that's the case though, how come? Well, I guess a lot of landlords don't really want to mess with Airbnb. So, I was just thinking, why would they not do it themselves? But
First, Airbnb Arbitrage. Go out there, conquer the world of Airbnb, and let me know when you get that first one.
yeah, I can see. Let's check out some of the comments. Yeah, it was a pretty simple video, straight to the point. I just believe that being in the digital space holds a lot more advantage. And the reason why people don't dabble with digital real estate is that for most people, it sounds way more difficult to do digital real estate, like SEO and backlinks and ranking a website in Google search engine. Like that sounds like too complex and too technical for most people. So it keeps a lot of those people out. Whereas for most people, it's very, very simple to understand, like Airbnb arbitrage. Like you rent a place, you pay mortgage, or you pay rent to the landlord, and you just use it as an Airbnb space, and you try to make a profit. But it's not that simple, because I think there's always like a stress level involved there, because if you don't successfully rent out your Airbnb location a minimum amount of days per month, you can potentially only break even after you pay the rent, or you could even lose money in a month. So you're always kind of like have that little bit of a risk factor. And as somebody that's first starting to try to create leveraged income or side income while you're working a 9 to 5, one wrong property could really set you back. Next thing you know, you're on the hook for a whole year of lease, paying extra rent of this property, and you're not able to get enough like customers in a month, and now you're paying extra rent on top of your own rent. So that could be quite stressful. I still do, wholeheartedly believe, if you're interested in creating leveraged income like this, look into this completely different world of creating digital real estate, digital assets that you can rent it out to small business owners. Because I feel like you can scale a digital business much, much faster. So to get to like 10K per month in net profit, I believe with digital real estate, you can get there much faster than Airbnb arbitrage. So if you're somebody that's stuck at a 9 to 5 and you want to quit your job as quickly as possible, digital real estate, in my opinion, will allow you to accomplish that faster. There's a lot less risks involved. So again, if you're working a 9 to 5, you only have limited limited budget of money that you can play with each month. I think going into digital has a lot more leverage. What you have to understand is, because it's digital, because it keeps a lot of people out, because it sounds too technical, that's where a lot of the advantage is, right? If you do real estate and do these kind of models where it's more people, it's easier to understand for the general layman, then you're going to be competing with a larger bulk of the population. So and Airbnb is pretty competitive as well. Like every market, there's tons of Airbnb properties. So just because you rent a place out, I mean, how guarantee is it that your place will be booked up majority of the month? That's a big unknown and a big risk that, it requires some leap of faith there. Whereas if I teach you the skill to consistently rank a website at the top of the Google search engine, you have a lot more control. You know that when you rank a website at the top, that you will always get most of the traffic, all the leads, and there's always going to be business owner that's going to be hungry for those leads. So we have a lot more control in what we do and generating traffic and leads than Airbnb, where on Airbnb, you can't really manipulate the rankings of your listing, right? There's already going to be tons of great Airbnb properties in any given area that's going to be able to compete with you. They might have better furnishing than you. They might have, a different location that's better. Like there's just a lot of factors there. Whereas I just love the control that we have in digital real estate, because I have skills that allow me to outrank most people that are building websites out there, which gives me the power to pick and choose what companies that I work with, and I can literally go to any market and create a piece of digital real estate that's more valuable than all the other websites in that area, if that makes sense. So hope you like this video. If you're interested in doing the more digital real estate model, but you were interested in Airbnb, I strongly urge you to check out the link in our description. Very similar model, but in the digital space. So I think you'll find it very, very interesting.